Welcome back, Math Conquerors, and this is lesson 8-8, and we were on example 2, applying a difference more than once, and we are now going to work our third example together. Okay, so I have 81 minus x to the fourth. So I could say 9 squared minus x squared, which would give me 9 minus x squared times 9 plus x squared. Now in the previous example in part 1, this is part 2, notice I tried to do sum of a difference and it wasn't sum of a difference, but it is sum of a difference this time because 3 times 3 does give me 9. So now I can say 3 minus x, 3 plus x. I'm going to leave this alone because it is not difference of a square. Okay, and that is my answer for that. Okay, let's work this one together. And this one, it says 16y to the fourth minus 1. So I know that 4y squared would give me 16y to the fourth minus 1 squared. So now I have 4y squared minus 1 times 4y squared plus 1. I do have the difference of a square right here because 2 times 2 is 4. So I know that I can say 2y minus 1 times 2y plus 1. I'm leaving this just like it is because it is not the difference of a square. 4y squared plus 1. Okay, in example 3, we are going to apply different techniques. So let's look. It says that in A we have 5x to the fifth minus 45x. So I either need squares or fours. I need a nice number. So I see that I can factor out a 5x. If I factor out a 5x, that is going to leave me with x to the fourth minus 9. Then I can say x squared minus 3 squared. And then I have the difference of a square. And so I can say 5x times x squared minus 3 times x squared plus 3. Okay, let's look at our next example. And our next example is 7x cubed plus 21x squared minus 7x minus 21. The first thing that we want to do here is to factor out our GCF, our greatest common factor, which is a 7. When I factor out the 7, it leaves me with x cubed plus 3x squared minus x minus 3. Now, if you think back to lesson 8-6, we wanted to put together or group together common factors. So I chose to put the x cubed plus 3x squared and the x plus 3. And then I asked myself, what can I factor out of that? I could take an x squared out of here, which would leave me with x plus 3. So then here, these are the same. So think back to lesson 8-6, and you may need to reference back to that lesson to refresh your memory. X squared plus bx plus c. And look up here, we took out a negative, but remember in algebra, we really took out a -1, but we don't have to write those ones in algebra, but we do have to remember that they are there, because you have to know that this 1 is there, because now I can take my x squared and my minus 1 and put it together, and then my x plus 3, which is the same. And then if you did the full method, put it back together, multiply it by 7, you would return to your starting point. Now let's work some examples like these together. Okay, so our first example we're going to work together is 2y to the fourth minus 50. Now the first thing that jumps out to me is that we have a greatest common factor of 2. So I'm going to take that 2 out of there, leaving me with y to the fourth minus 25. Then I see, oh, I have difference of a square, because y squared times y squared. So I say 2 times y squared minus 5 squared, and that would give me y squared minus 5 times y squared plus 5. And again, if you take the full method, multiply it by 2, you will get back to your starting point. Okay, in our next example, it says 6x to the 4th minus 96. Now, if I take a 6 out of 96, I will get a 16. So I'm going to factor my GCF, which is 6, leaving me with x fourth minus 16. And then I have the difference of a square. So I'm going to have x squared times squared and 4 squared, and that will give me x minus 4, x squared minus 4 times x squared plus 4. Now, let's look at this. I have a difference of a square because x times x and 2 times 2. So I can go another step. 6x minus 2, x plus 2. This is not a difference of a square, so I'm going to leave it alone. And that is my ultimate answer. And again, if you went one step at a time and used the full method, let's change it, make that look better like a 2, and then multiplied it all by 6, you would get back to your starting point. So remember, you can always ultimately check your answers. It's a little bit of work, but you could check this to make sure that that is what you get. Okay, in this example, again, you're going to want to reference back to lesson 8-6 if you need to, where we group things together so that we could pull out a common factor. This is read 2m cubed plus m squared minus 50m minus 25. Now, I'm going to group this with this. I really should have rewritten it. I'm going to have a plus sign in between there. So that I'm going to pull out here an m squared. And when I take out an m squared, it's going to leave me with 2m plus 1, and I squeezed in that plus sign, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I did. And here I am going to pull out a negative 25. So I'm actually going to change that now to a negative 25 because I just like things to look nice. I don't like all these negatives in here. This is going to give me, that's going to give me 2m plus 1. And look right here what I have. Okay, so if you reference back to lesson 8-6, so this is m squared minus 25, which I took from here and here because I factored those out, times 2m plus 1 because I found that common factor. Now look, I have right here sum of a difference because m times m and 5 times 5. So I can say m plus 5 times m minus 5. This is not sum of a difference. 2m plus 1 for my ultimate answer. Okay, this will be the last example that we work together, and then you should be able to work on this lesson some by yourself. So in this, we want to group things together again that can be grouped together. So I'm going to leave it grouped just like it is. I'm going to take out of this an r squared, which would leave me with r plus 6. And over here I'm going to take out an 11, which would leave me with r plus 6. And then all I have to do is put everything together. Again, this is referencing back to that 8-6 lesson. So if you need to review, I know I keep saying it, but everything in algebra builds upon each other. So if you need to reference back, make sure that you do. R squared plus 11 times r plus 6. All right, I hope you enjoy working this lesson.